Hello and welcome to another episode of With Enough Prep Time. I'm the Nerd Man, and just hosting today because it seems our man R Patterson doesn't want to work out, and John Campea is having a little bit of a fit regarding it. So, what are my opinions on this? I mean, it's kind of hard to even have an opinion on this. I don't even know what this film is supposed to be, what type of Batman they're kind of depicting. And to be quite honest, I've never liked the idea of, especially the DC Trinity being these massive, jacked up, characters. I don't like Superman specifically that muscular. I think he should be top heavy, kind of like how Brandon Routh and Christopher Reeves played it. I like Wonder Woman, quite kind of slender, and she's a goddess after all. I mean, and she's in the part of the quirky part of her old origin story is that she's blessed by the beauty of Aphrodite, so it kind of makes sense. But in general, she's supposed to represent the feminine, so her being too masculine is kind of weird. So when people were saying they wanted Gina Carano to play her, I didn't get it. But if there is anyone of the Trinity that perhaps deserves a little bit of physicality, it is certainly Batman. So I can understand some of the people's concerns, but I really, really think this is a different take on Batman that Patterson is doing, and that he's possibly trolling people a tiny little bit. I'm not sure, but I think he might be trolling people a little bit. But in any case, the other thing being that, essentially, let me go into what he said. So, Robert Patterson was recently interviewed by GQ magazine. He did a photo shoot with them, a coronavirus kind of themed. It was a coronavirus themed photo shoot where they take photos of themselves around the house. And he did two things that particularly was concerning to DCEU and Batman fans and people who have been against Robert Patterson from the beginning, because you have to remember he's been a controversial choice. Not to me, and I'll explain that later, because you probably don't know this about me, but I'm a huge supporter of Robert Patterson in the role. So he's doing this interview, and two things stand out to Snyder fans in particular. And the two things that stood out were that, one, he was making he was eating very unhealthily, and he was telling people about how he can't make pasta and how he makes pasta in a microwave. I don't know why people think it's cool, like this idea that you can't cook. It's like as if it's like a cool thing that you can't cook. But anyway, he's describing all of this kind of stuff. It basically doesn't sound like he's on the healthiest diet, like, a strict diet to keep his body in shape and in tone. And the second part of the interview is, this guy cracks me up. So the second part of the interview is, he says, that essentially, he hasn't been working out since being in quarantine, and that he thinks working out is part of the problem. He also mentioned an interview with Zoe Kravitz, who unfortunately is going to be playing Catwoman. I'm much more against her casting as Catwoman, which I might do a video on her, because I don't know if I've talked about that so much yet. But so he's essentially saying, like, demeaning the fact that his co-star is even working out every day, going on the diet, making sure she looks good for the Catwoman role. And saying that's part of the problem, like, in Hollywood, that in old time Hollywood, when James Dean was around, he didn't work out and have to look extra buff. And of course, people have called Robert Patterson out on this, but saying, well, first of all, and in particular John Campea, who has been who almost had a fit. I was worried about the guy. I thought he was going to have a stroke halfway through this. He was throwing shade at Gal Gadot's acting ability for some reason during this tirade. He takes another opportunity to take a shot at Wonder Woman, even though she has, he supports Henry Cavill in one of the dullest performances in a superhero movie perhaps ever, in Man of Steel, and somehow doesn't recognize that Gal Gadot was infinitely better in Wonder Woman than I think than Ben Affleck has ever been as Batman. And I like Ben Affleck as Batman, even in BVS. I liked him as Batman, not as good as Bale or he may be, no, he's not as good as Bale or Keaton. I just, in my opinion, maybe I'm biased because I grew up with that Batman, but I don't think so. I think Michael Keaton suit the role a lot better, and made it very quirky and interesting. And so, in any case, Gal Gadot, to me, has done the best performance in the DCEU as a superhero. She's better than Cavill as Man of Steel. She's better than Ben Affleck has ever been as Batman, even in his lauded performance in Batman v Superman. I still think Gal Gadot I think she was better than him in that movie, even. And she was better than Zachary Levi as Shazam. And I liked him. I liked him as Shazam. I thought he's a little bit miscast as well, but I like him. Who else? I can't think of somebody who's done a better performance as a superhero. She's definitely better than Harley Quinn. I'll say the one performance that completely outshines her in the DCEU, and I count Joker as part of the DCEU, is Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. And still, he is not as much Joker as she is Wonder Woman. That whole performance is good. But if you're talking about who I see more as the character, I see her more as Wonder Woman in that movie. So John Campea is taking shots at Gal Gadot, but saying, but even still, she put the work in, she did the gym work, she did all of this kind of stuff, which was kind of weird. I was just like, I don't know. And my thought on it is, why is this guy having a conniption when he doesn't even know what the style of this movie is? What is the entitlement here that we think, until we see the movie, and I don't usually use this argument, but in this case I will use this argument, until we see the movie and we see the take on Batman that this is supposed to be, what on earth, just because Snyder decided to make all his superheroes a bunch of jacked up muscle men who, in a realistic world, wouldn't you think, bloody hell, that billionaire who's super jacked up, looks like a tank, and the Batman has all of this weird, expensive cars and gear and stuff. Maybe Bruce Wayne's Batman. He looks about as big as him. It's kind of like, I don't like that take on them anyway. So, and I think Michael Keaton looked great in the Batman suit, and I don't think he had to do a lot of working out or do anything like that. I think it really depends on the take, and I think it's kind of weird that everyone after Zack Snyder and after, things like Thor and Captain America feel that all superheroes, have to be these muscular, good-looking, great-looking guys. I don't I don't think. I think you have to think about which character you're you know you're adapting here. You know, Superman does not have to be this great looking guy. I don't think Thor has to be a great looking guy, to be fair. I think they made Thor a great looking guy, buff guy, because the character's so weak that nobody would have been interested in him if he was unattractive, right? Or if he wasn't as fit, you know. And Captain America, they had to do the same kind of similar kind of deal there, which is we're not, you know, 100% on this character. If you notice the way they cast the Incredible Hulk and Iron Man, two stronger characters in the MCU, because Captain America was a bit of a wild card with how it was gonna, how that people were gonna think about it internationally. Will people get into a superhero named Captain America in an international market? It was a huge gamble for Marvel, which I applaud them for, you know, swinging for the fences with, because it could have easily been like, what is this, a guy dressed up in an America suit? But they did the right thing, which was they got somebody who was very impressive looking, someone who would bring in a good amount of female audience, and you know, who just looked, you know, very buff and whatever, and it aligned itself with the character as well, because that's what Captain America really ought to be. He doesn't necessarily have to be great looking, though. You know, like the way Chris Evans looks. I think there could be a much more tougher, more rough version of Captain America. You know, more gruff, kind of, you know, kind of like battle worn, edge, not edgier, because Captain America shouldn't have edge, but you know what I mean, square jawed in a different kind of way, right? There could be that version of Captain America, and I think that would be a valid take on the character. So again, it's not a character that requires, you know, that there be some super attractive, handsome guy. But I think that's what's happened recently with the casting of Superman, with the casting of you know, Thor, and a number of different other characters. People are kind of used to this aesthetic around superheroes now, which I don't think, you know, because this is what you know, Campea was talking about in his video, in his rant. He just kept going on about this godlike, and people expect nowadays, you know, this, that they weren't in the age of this mythic, godlike, you know, characters, and portraying them and bringing them to life in this kind of way, where they're toned up and strong and look like, you know, they can bench press a car, you know, that he sees this as like a standard now for all comic book movies, and I don't think that's necessarily the case, and I think that's unfair unless you know what the filmmakers are trying to get out of this character, and perhaps how Robert Patterson is perceiving what has been written in this character as to what he's going to give to his performance. And I want to talk a little bit about Patterson as well. I think he is perfectly cast as Batman. I love his casting as Batman. I think of all the characters I would have wanted Patterson to play, because I would have hated if they had have cast him as a villain, because he's a fantastic little actor, you know, not a great actor, not yet. He's not on a level of, you know, greatness yet. He's good, really good. I mean, top notch, you know, actor, but he's not, you know, whatever. He's not even Christian Bale great, like in that sense, but like he's fantastic. So I would much rather an actor of his caliber take on the hero and get like some really interesting people like Paul Dino and stuff like that to take on the villains like Riddler and, you know, than than the other way around, right? So I really like that casting. I think that's brilliant. Get a really top notch actor to play the hero, and get like the brilliant actors to play the villains, because the villains are kind of like what especially in the Batman universe, but like in other DC universes, are the things that really make the films pop. So I loved the casting, and I think that whatever he's doing, we're gonna have to wait till till showtime, because I might have to eat crow, or John Campea might have to eat crow. Maybe like this guy looks weak. He doesn't look like he can be Batman. As I said, if there's any member of the Justice League or DC Trinity that deserves somebody getting in peak physical condition, it's Batman. I don't think you need that for Superman. I think you need to look very Olympian athletic for Wonder Woman, but I don't think you have to be, again, like what John Campea what he was championing back in the day, like Gina Carano. He wanted to play Wonder Woman, which I just thought was idiotic. It would have been a disaster. So I mean that's really it. I don't think this is a very controversial point. I have nothing against what Patterson said in the interview. If anything, I'm worried about this Batman movie, and I'm going to talk about this, is like castings are a bit weird in it. Like different people are cast in areas where I don't think they should be cast. So I'm very worried about the Penguin casting in that movie, and I'm extremely concerned about Catwoman. And I do take umbrage with him dissing people who are putting the work in and who are doing the exercise, like his co-star Kravitz. But again, I feel like I much prefer his casting with him not working out than Kravitz, even with her taking the role seriously and working out. I think she's woefully miscast as Catwoman. She's never like been that impressive in a role that I've seen her in. I don't know why she's being cast as Catwoman, but good on her for keeping up the exercise, and Robert Patterson really shouldn't be taking shots at people who are doing it. But certainly if he thinks that is not part of how he perceives the character, I don't see what the problem is. So that's my take. Please like, comment, subscribe. What do you think of the news, Robert Patterson not taking seriously the Batman role and not working out for it? So, and what do you think of John Campea having a conniption fit about it as well? Should we send him some stroke medicine for next time? All right. Thanks very much. Like, comment, subscribe. Chat to you later.